Good morning, everybody. So in today's video, we are going to roast tomatoes and homegrown tomatoes. I just thought I'd add that. And we are going to, I have them cut up right now in the roaster, and I'm going to roast them overnight. And then when I come back in this video, it'll be the next day. And then we're going to make tomato soup and we're going to can it. Okay, so I just chopped up some of my tomatoes here. We got a whole bunch of them here that we're turning into tomato soup. I chopped them, I drizzled them with olive oil, pepper, and some garlic powder. I'm roasting them now so that they're ready for when we're making the soup here. I'm also going to roast the onions and the garlic ahead of time as well. I'm just layering them in my roaster pan here. I decided to put some of them in the roaster to cook them down and roast them overnight. This is the night before the video here. I just decided to do some prep ahead of time, just because the roasting process takes a long time. I have a few, most of these are Roma tomatoes, but I do have a few beefsteak tomatoes in here. So I just wanted to give you a little look of the prep that I was doing ahead of time here. So this is the amount of tomatoes I got. I'm putting these ones in the roaster, and then the ones, once they come out of the oven and have a nice char on them, I'll add them to this. I just wanted a little bit of a char flavor to this, just because it is going to be tomato soup. So I'm just going to add a little bit of olive oil. Doing the exact same as what I did for the stuff in the oven. Some pepper, just a little bit. We'll add more seasoning to the actual tomato soup. A little bit of garlic powder. And then I'm going to let these roast in this roaster oven overnight. And once the ones in the oven are done roasting, I will add them to this. And then tomorrow we'll make tomato soup together.
I'm very happy that I decided to roast some of them in the oven. The char flavor and roasting the tomatoes in the roaster oven overnight really gave the soup a really nice flavor. Same with the roasted onions and garlic that I did ahead of time. It made this soup so good.
Good morning, everybody. So it's the next day. So I'm going to give you a look on what I have set up here. So this is what the tomatoes look like after roasting most of the night. I have my food mill set up. I have my lids in the pot, and I have some jars in the oven. I have my pressure canner set up. So let's get started putting these tomatoes through the food mill. At least I know which way to turn it this time. Unlike the first time I tried this. I'm going to need a cloth here. Last time this leaked a little bit, so I'm just going to put one around. This smells delicious. I roasted some garlic in with this. I also took it upon myself to roast some onions and garlic together in the oven. I put it in a container overnight. So we have that as well that I'm going to add into the soup later when we blend it. This is just to get rid of the seeds and to get rid of the peels and the cores. I think I love this little machine. It works great, saves a lot of time. Oh, wrong way. So I'm going to put all of these tomatoes through the food mill, and then I'm going to put the liquid into a pot to make the tomato soup. But I'm also going to blend it with an immersion blender. I want the consistency to be really, really nice and creamy. So we're going to put it through an immersion blender after this as well. And then it'll also blend up the roasted onions and garlic. So it'll be perfect. This is going to be a pressure canning recipe because I don't want to affect the flavor by adding lemon juice or vinegar to the recipe. So I am going to pressure can this recipe. I'm loving the consistency of the fresh tomatoes roasted rather than the frozen. The frozen's fine. You just need to cook it down longer, but this, I'm noticing there's a lot more pulp and the consistency is nicer. I wish you could smell this. The roasted tomatoes smell so good. I'm not sure how many jars this is going to make, so I put an abundance of, I put some quarts and some pints into my oven to heat them. I don't want to put this hot mixture into a cold jar, it'll break it, so we will see. If you do a lot of applesauce or tomato products, I highly recommend getting a food mill. I made applesauce by hand without a food mill. I cored everything, I peeled everything by hand. It was kind of a pain. I won't do that way again. I'll use the food mill now. So we are just going to get as much tomato soup out of this as possible. I do have more tomatoes still. Not quite as much as this, but enough. I got a overabundance of tomatoes off my garden this year. I'm so happy about that. But I think that the next thing we're going to make with the last of the tomatoes is tomato paste. So I want to make homemade tomato paste and can it. So that will be in a future video once the rest of my tomatoes finish ripening. So I'm going to finish blending these up off camera, and then when I'm ready to start putting the rest of the ingredients into the soup, I'll come back and we'll do that together. Okay, so it almost filled the entire bowl, so I'm going to go and put it in that big pot over there. Hopefully I can put this in there without splashing everywhere. I originally had 2 different size pots out because I wasn't sure how much this was going to make. But I have to add some chicken stock to this too, so I chose to use the bigger pot. Okay, so before we stick the basil in and the rest of the chicken stock and stuff, these are my roasted peppers and garlic. I did a mixture of white onions and red onions. See all the mixture, the juices from overnight? So I'm just going to dump that right in. And then I'm going to blend it with the immersion blender. Oh, that smells so good, the onions. I want the soup to have a really nice creamy consistency. Okay, let me see if I got all the onion. I might blend this a little bit more later, we'll see. Just want to make sure the big chunks of onion are blended. They were nice and soft, so I'm sure they did. Yep, they did. Okay. So let's add, it said 4 to 8 cups of chicken stock. We're going to start with 4 and see how much that makes. This 2-cup measure. Okay, one of these cartons is exactly 4 cups. Let's see how much that did. For this recipe, it calls for white wine, but I'm not a drinker, so I actually have alcohol intolerance, so I cannot drink. So it says that I can substitute the wine for more chicken stock. So I'm going to add another cup of chicken stock here. We are going to let this boil down a little bit because I do want it to be a little bit thicker consistency. So we're going to add 1 more cup. Then I'm going to add maybe 1/4 of a cup for now of sugar. The basil is to taste, so I'm going to add a bunch of this and then I'm going to let it simmer and then I'm going to taste it later. So, some of the kosher salt. I don't have Himalayan salt, so I'm just going to use a little bit of kosher salt since I'm going to be canning this. And then I'm going to mix this up and I'm going to let this simmer for a little bit. And then I'm going to give it a taste. See if it needs to be blended a little bit more. And once it boils down a little bit, we'll come back and we'll do the canning process. I just wanted to give you a little update. I just put some pepper, and these are the grinded up bits of roasted onions and the basil. I tasted it. I added a little bit more salt, some pepper. Otherwise, it's perfect. So I'm just waiting for this to boil down a bit. I'm going to wash all of that and clean up all of that. And I'll be back soon. Okay, so this has been simmering for a few hours. About an hour. I think it's a lot nicer, a lot thicker. I'm going to give it a final taste test here in a sec. And then we will can this. Okay, so I just tasted the soup and it tastes perfect. The seasonings are perfect. The taste, the sweetness, everything is good. So let's get some jars and start putting this into some jars. So I think I'm going to do mostly pints. Might do a couple quarts. We'll see how much this does. So let's start with some pints. Bring our lids over. I'm very curious to see how many jars this is going to make. I wanted to make it in pints mostly because it's like the perfect size for lunch. That's the main reason. Emptying one jar into a bowl is like the perfect size. So my cloth has water and vinegar on it. If you've seen any of my other canning videos, I like to heat my lids. It's not necessary, but I find you get a little bit better seal when you heat the lids. This recipe is actually one of the best tomato soups I've ever made. I do like to add cream to it to make tomato bisque, but you cannot can anything with cream in it or dairy, so I'll just add it after when I take it out of the jar. When I'm ready to heat it up. It's also really good without the cream. It's got a really nice color too. It's like perfect. I have a feeling this is going to make a lot more than I expected. So for your elevation, you would need to check your elevation to see how long you need to pressure can yours for your area, basically. So for my area, I'm going to pressure can this for about 35 to 45 minutes. I'm going to double check that before I start here. So make sure you check your times for your elevation from where you live. Okay, let's do a quart. I wanted to do a few quarts for when I make tomato soup and grilled cheese for dinner. Enough for everybody. I can also just open 2 pints. Same thing. I wanted to can some convenience meals. Sometimes I have a lot going on and I just don't have time. And it's the same as freezer meals for me. I like to have some convenience items so you don't end up eating out all the time. Healthier, homemade, and good for you. It's really hot. As I was saying before, with the rest of the tomatoes that I have, I think I'm going to make tomato paste. Some homemade tomato paste. So that is going to come in an upcoming video. Stay tuned. I think I'm going to do the majority in pints. I think that's a good idea. I'm not sure if I mentioned, I think I did, but I added some black pepper to the soup as well. It needed some more flavor, seasoning. You only want to tighten your jars hand tight. They need room to contract in the canner. I'm leaving about an inch of headspace. I'm doing it right to the neck of the jar here. You don't want it to be too high, otherwise it will bubble up when it's trying to seal. I'm all for promoting ready-made meals that are already done. And they're healthy and they're homemade. All for that. Okay, I need to heat up some more lids, so I will be right back once we're done that. The lids are heated up again. Let's continue. Let's do another quart. Hopefully there's enough here for 3 more pints. Or two anyways. The reason why I put my finger around is just to make sure there's nothing on it and to make sure there's no nicks. I did check the jars beforehand, but I just want to make sure. Sometimes it's missed, right? I think we're going to get this last pint here. And there's only maybe a cup left from what it looks like here. I'll just have that for lunch. I haven't eaten yet today. So I'll just eat the last cup here for lunch. I don't think it would have made a whole jar, so. So we got 2 quarts and 9 pints. That's pretty good. For one roaster full of tomatoes, that's really awesome. So now I'm going to get ready to process them in our pressure canner here. So I'm going to add some white vinegar to the water here so it doesn't get water stains on my jars. So I think I'm going to process the pints first. So after I'm done processing these, I will show you the finished product like normal. So I'll see you then. It's a nice consistency. It's really good. It's delicious. I just took out a couple cookie doughs that we made earlier in a different video. I'm going to make these for dessert tonight. One's peanut butter chocolate chip and the other one's turtle cookies. So I'm going to cook these up later. Okay guys, so the first load is out of the canner. Looks good. They're still hot, so I don't want to touch them. They're still sealing. But there wasn't much separation. Actually, there's none. So it's good. So guys, this is where I'm going to end the video for today. I need to make dinner. I'm going to make lasagna today for dinner, and then I'm going to bake up those cookie dough that we took out earlier. So I'll see you next time. Bye.